Um, Could you get your views on the Second Amendment and what that means in terms of, especially in this area where there's a lot of hunters, what that means? What's the interpretation of this Second Amendment? Is it that I can own anything or within limits or?
That again is another hot button issue, and with the Second Amendment, I think originally the intention, and courts have interpreted it this way, is that it was geared toward possession by militia or military people of firearms. But the law has been evolving, and most recently, I think there's a 2008 case. It's called District of Columbia versus Heller. And in that particular case, the Supreme Court actually held that there is an individual right to possess firearms, and that would be for lawful purposes. And examples of that would be for hunting or self-defense if that came about. I don't think that that particular ruling negates a government's ability to, for instance, regulate, possession of firearms by felons or mentally ill persons, or to say you can't carry a gun in school or you can't have a gun at the airport or on the airplane. So I don't think that that ruling takes anything away from the government, and I actually think it's probably one of the first rulings that's pretty much a common sense approach to interpretation of the Second Amendment. I don't see any reason why people can't possess guns for legal purposes, but if you're running around with a sawed-off shotgun and there's no rational purpose for having one of those, I think the government should be able to regulate that, or I don't see why the common citizen needs to have an automatic weapon or an Uzi or something of that nature, unless they can demonstrate it's for some lawful purpose. Perhaps if they're a gun collector and, it's rendered some way not usable in that automatic fashion or something, I don't have problems with that. It's when guns are not respected and then put into the hands of people who don't respect them, that's when I have a problem. So again, I think that it should be a common sense approach looking at lawful possession of guns.
So I know that D.C. decision actually has created some interesting commotion in Chicago area, because Chicago has particular gun laws that were similar to D.C.'s.
Right.
And I know no one can predict the future, but it sounds like from the pundits that we see is that they very well could strike down some of the Chicago laws as well. Are you familiar at all with some of the things going on with that? Or?
I know that there is a case pending before the Supreme Court involving the ruling that you're talking about. And I'm hoping that the same kind of, as I said, common sense approach that prevailed in the D.C. case will prevail in this matter.
Okay, good. So we're down basically to the last few questions. And these questions go back really more to you, and really about what experience and qualifications you possess that make you feel like you're ready to take this on, or you think you could represent all of the people in terms of sitting on the bench. Give us a little bit about your background and why you think you're qualified to do this.
I'll give you quite a bit about my background. I'm 50 years old. I'm originally from Sterling. I grew up on the west end of Sterling in a working class neighborhood. My father is a retired steel worker out of Northwestern Steel and Wire, and my mother is a retired registered nurse. And when I grew up, work ethic was stressed. When I was in 7th grade, I graduated from Catholic schools. When I was in 7th grade, my parents came to me and said, you need to start paying your school tuition. Now, back in those days, it wasn't a lot of money. It was about $75 a year, but back then, to a kid, that's a lot of money. So I went out and I found myself a paper route. I babysat, I picked beans. I did just about everything I could think of to earn my tuition. And from that time forward, I always paid all of my school tuition. When I was a student at Newman, and when I was old enough to have a legal job, I almost worked full-time and went to school because my parents kept instilling in me how important it was to work toward a goal. When I was in law school, I spent summers working at Northwestern Steel and Wire to put myself through school, and I'm not one who had an office job or some kind of fluff job there. I worked in the factory, in the plant, as a laborer. And I shoveled scale, which is kind of a sooty byproduct in the steel process, pushed nail buggies, worked next to the furnaces, worked in barbed wire. I did just about every job you can think of down there. And without that experience, I don't think that I would be in the position where I am today. When I graduated from law school, I became a prosecutor here in Whiteside County, and I did that for 12 years here. I did it for another year in a different county while I was a private attorney. I did it part-time in another county. But I handled everything in the office, from traffic and misdemeanor to felonies to juvenile court to civil matters for the county. So I have a really well-rounded trial background. I tried cases before judges, before juries. So I have extensive background in public service. I also served as a part-time public defender since I've been in private practice, and I saw things from then both sides. And I did that for approximately 3 years in Whiteside County. And then I currently am serving as a private practitioner. I've had my own private practice. It'll be 13 years, January 1st. And I've dealt with about every type of law you can think of, anything from real estate to corporations to divorce to bankruptcy. I mean, you name it, I've pretty much done about every type of law that there is. I also have been an administrative hearing officer. I've been appointed by courts to serve as a child representative in court, which is the voice of the child in court. And I'm the only candidate for this position who has 25 years of legal experience and who is a court-appointed child custody mediator. And I've been doing that for a few years now. In terms of not only having a lot of professional experience, I also have balanced that by public service. And over the last 25 years, I've been involved in a number of organizations. I've been a Red Cross board member. I've been involved on the YMCA board, been a Rotary Club member. I'm active in my church. I've been on my parish council, co-chair the church dinners there. Most recently, some of the things that I've been involved in or that I was pleased to be elected as the Whiteside County Bar Association president for this year. I believe I'm the first female who has ever held that post. And currently I'm very involved with World War II Veterans Honor Flight Organization. Sure. And in fact, in November, I was able to escort one of the veterans to Washington.
Well,
there's somebody who wants to get involved in this.
Sorry about that.
I was able to escort one of our World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. to see some of the memorials, and that was probably one of the most moving events I've ever been involved in. And I also, people think it's strange when I mention this, but I box twice a week, and it's not, kickboxing, or it's not, pretend boxing, it's actual boxing. And there's a local boxing club that is run by a friend of mine, and it's geared toward at-risk youth. And what we try to do is instill in them not only physical fitness and discipline, but we also have a mentoring program with them. So I think that when you look at the length of my experience, my personal experience, my professional experience, my public service, and my community service, along with my work ethic, I think that you'll find that I'm the most balanced candidate with good work ethic, who has a good temperament, who is respectful of people, and who will follow and apply the laws.
Okay. Well, good. Last